Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome back. Jesus is Lucifer, and the Bible is a trick. I did not come to this conclusion quickly or easily. I didn't get this from somebody else. This came from my own studying, my own observations, and I'm 53 years old. Up until maybe about 40 or so, I was still dead set on this ideology being the truth of things. I was a follower. What struck me was, I remember realizing that I didn't know the Ten Commandments. And that itself was kind of like, damn, how do I not know the Ten Commandments after all these years? But the thing that got me was when I went and looked them up. I went and looked up the Ten Commandments. The second commandment said, do not make graven images of things that are in heaven, things that are on the earth, or things that are under the earth's waters. And I remember being kind of staggered by that, because the reality is the cross is a graven image. The second commandment says, do not make graven images. Now, what does graven mean? Graven is when you make an image of something, when you carve something into something. If you carve a piece of wood into a cross, that's a graven image. Graven can be stitched or etched or drawn in any way. If you take a pen and you put it on a piece of paper and you write something, you're engraving. That struck me. In fact, that stopped me. There was also a video of a guy, he's not on YouTube anymore, but there was this redneck dude who used to kind of go off on Christianity, and he was really funny. But these two things happened around the same time. But I remember that graven image thing just really made me realize something is really wrong. And I've talked to a couple of friends who are Bible followers, and one who's a really bright guy. And he's trying to tell me that, well, the cross is not a graven image. Yes, the fuck it is. It is. The cross is a graven image. And if you know the story, it's funny because I mentioned how the Bible tricks you. And it's like it's a setup. Because when you read the story, what happens is Moses is in the desert for a number of days with God. I think it was 40 days or something like that, or maybe that was Jesus who did the 40 days. Anyway, he was in the desert or in the mountains with God. And I guess this is when God is engraving these 10 commandments on this block of stone. When Moses came back to the Israelites, what were they doing? They were singing and dancing around a golden calf that they made. And this made Moses so mad that he smashed the stones that God had just given him. Now, another interesting thing about that is that one was the commandment not to make graven images of things in heaven. Was that on the 10 Commandments right then? How did they know not to do that? There's so many aspects of that, because one, how would they have known that was a sin? They made this calf because they needed something to worship. I don't know why you need something to worship, but they made this calf and they're worshiping it. But before that, the 10 Commandments didn't exist. So it's possible that they didn't know that they weren't supposed to do that. Moses came down pissed off. He not only smashed the tablets, but those people were killed. Those people were then killed. God told him, kill these people. But anyway, that was the first thing that really got my attention. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. The majority of the Christian faith follows or uses this image, this graven image. They wear it on their chest. They'll scratch it into their skin. Got it hanging above their door. The commandment says, do not make graven images of things that are in heaven. Anyway, yeah, it's a trip. Bible study. John 2, 1 through 11. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called to the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So that story is usually used as a evidence of divinity, right? Christians love to tell that story or use that story as a sign that Jesus is God. I'm telling you that Jesus is Lucifer, and there are several clues within this story pointing to that. 1, Jesus' mother asking for wine after they had already been drinking is very curious. Overindulgence, maybe? Why is Mary asking for more wine? If Jesus is who he's supposed to be, shouldn't he have told his mother, "We've had enough. You had a glass or two. I mean, how much wine do you need? Let's get ready to wrap this up." That's not what he does, though. Instead, he tells these dudes to put some water into a container and hocus pocus, make more Mad Dog 2020. Let's get turned up. Something's wrong here. Something is wrong here. Why would the son of the creator of the universe, the Prince of Peace, the person who is supposed to be instructing us on morality, be magically creating more booze for the party to keep going? That's not what Jesus is supposed to be, according to the story that we're getting. Another element in this, and something that I think gets brushed over: what respectful son calls their mother woman? That is one of the most disrespectful things that you probably have never heard that. I don't think I've ever heard of I've heard some white dudes curse at their mother, but nobody calls their mother woman. Maybe even the first name is disrespectful, but woman? That's very telling. And that's one of the things that I think, again, is a clue. That's put there purposely. You're supposed to be like, "Hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here." No respectful son calls their mother woman. Theologians will make up some excuse, I'm sure. I haven't looked up what the excuses are for that. I don't care. I know that that's wrong. There's no excuse for it. You don't call your mother woman. Anyway, yeah, you just, that's not how you respond, or that's not how you talk to your mother, woman. It says when people have drunk freely. So they've been drinking already. When she comes to him and asks him or tells him to make more wine, they had already been drinking. Jesus turning good water into liquor, into booze. You better wake up. Wake up. That's not how that's supposed to go. That's the devil wanting you to be deluded. I'll make as much wine as you need. You want some more party favors? Give me that salt. Watch what I turn this into. It's interesting in doing these, in researching for these podcasts. I interact with AI, ChatGPT, and it's so apparent. I think in the last video or a couple of videos ago, I mentioned that it's programmed. It's not a program situation. I understand AI is not. That's not how it works. It's not programming like your computer is programmed. But there are guidelines set. And that's obvious because it really protects Christianity. Like chat, I've gone through this many times where I've got, it'll tell me something. I'll bring up a scripture and it'll quote the scripture and then it'll give me all the excuses made by theologians. And I'll have to argue about those excuses. I don't have to argue. I could just accept it, but I don't. I'm looking for the truth. So let's look at this. And, often I have to, many times now, really, I've been able to get ChatGPT to be like, well, yeah, okay. If you're looking at it literally, which how else can you take it? There is a problem. There's several problems. I talked last episode about how it softens certain stories. Theologians have softened certain stories. There's stories that are just way out. I was talking about the dookie bread. Ezekiel's got to make this bread over dookie. And the theologians have come up with some reasoning to say that, well, he was the only one that was going to eat it. Like I said, I read it. That's not, it never indicates that. That's something that somebody's making up after the fact. Similarly with this blood or this water into wine story. I just read to you from the English Standard Version because the way that I remember that story is reflective best in this version. In the King James Version, and there's a few other versions that again try to soften it. And they don't mention that they had been drinking already. What was it? It was the part where it says when the wine ran out. That part is left out in certain versions. It'll just say, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine, which makes it seem like she's just asking for a fresh glass of wine. All of that's a trip. Again, it's a party, sure, but wine is not necessary to have a good time. I drink a little bit, but I think most of us know that wine tends to lead to, wine can lead to deviancy. Easily. Often does. I mean, and wine, turns into drugs, turns into murder, turns into all kind of weird sexual interactions. I mean, the ideal of Jesus's mother asking for more wine and then Jesus making more wine magically, hocus pocus. It's a clue. It's a clue. Another aspect of this tradition that has prompted, has moved me in the direction that I'm in. The end of the world. This ideal, and this is a big problem for me personally, because that's all it was for me growing up. It's the end of the world. You better get ready. You better get right. It's the end of the world. This is being used. This is a part of what gets people to sign up before they've read it, right? Because the end of the world may be any moment now, maybe tomorrow. So you just got to say, I love Jesus right now and just hurry up and get in. That's a fucking trick. It's a ruse. It's a lure. That's a trick. They've been talking the end of the world for thousands of years now. There was a scripture, and I don't know if I brought this up, but there's a scripture where Jesus is speaking to his disciples. And he tells them that there will be those of you alive when I return with my kingdom. Look it up. Type into Google what I just said. There's a scripture where Jesus says, there will be those of you alive when I return. That was 2,000 years ago. Who's alive that's 2,000 years old? Jesus is Lucifer. The Bible's a trick. It's a trick. This end of the world thing has really had some negative impacts on the world. I remember when I was young, I'm a nature person. I love nature. I really do. I do. I've spoken about this before. I love animals. I love parks, trees, the beach, and the beach part. When I was younger, again, watching the news, these oil spills. I remember one oil spill in particular, it just broke my heart. It was like, God, you guys are just killing the whole planet. And it made me wonder, why? Why do people have such little regard for the planet? And I can't say that this is a fact, but this is my perspective on it. The sense that I get is that there's a lot of people in our culture that have little regard for the earth because they've been tricked into this ideal that God's going to come and fix it all. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what we do because God's going to come and fix everything that we've done. One of my Zen teachers one day said something to me. We were having a one-on-one chat. And again, I was still somewhat following at that time. And, Buddhists, they don't talk you out of nothing. They don't tell you not to do it. In fact, I have several teachers that are Christians themselves. But he mentioned to me that I said something about, God's going to take care of it. And he said, yeah, he's going to take care of it through you. What an interesting thing to say. What an interesting concept. And that has stuck. That feels right. We're given the capacity to take care of things ourselves. But because of this tradition and the way that it's been misrepresented, and I don't want to say the tradition is misrepresented, but it misrepresents the truth to us. We've got this ideal that all I got to do is say I love Jesus and he'll come and clean up all the oil. He'll come in and take care of everything that I screwed up. And this is one of the things that's really making this tradition bad for humanity. It's bad for humanity. We don't have to take responsibility. How many times have you heard people say, Jesus, take the wheel? Pay attention and do it yourself. You have the capacity to do it. That, or we think, oh, the devil he's working again. This is misrepresenting. This is causing us to have a warped perception of reality. It's not Jesus. It's not the devil. It's not God. It's not Muhammad. It's you. It's you. And when we start to realize that, there's transformation. There's been transformation for me in this recognition. It's not to say that I have reached any sort of a pinnacle or that there's not more work to do. I'm still, I got a lot of issues, but I have noticed the biggest transformations in my life coming through letting go of the ideal of there being something out there that's doing something to me or taking care of me. None of that. None of it. It's the, what is it, the 3rd? It's the 2nd of April. Easter's coming up, right? Easter is coming up where Christians will be pretending that they're eating human flesh and drinking human blood. Eating flesh and drinking blood. What was it, 30 or 40,000 years of witch hunts that Christians did? I take that back, 250 to 300 years. 30 to 40,000 women were killed. I'm sure that there were some men involved in that too, but mostly women killed, burned at the stake for being witches. But you're holding ceremonies where you're simulating eating flesh and drinking blood. Jesus is Lucifer. The Bible is a trick. It's tricking you into It's tricking you into not being what you naturally are, which is good, right? It starts you off with, no, you're bad. You can't do it. You can't help yourself. You can. You do. A lot of people assign everything good in them to Jesus. And this is the trick. It's not Jesus. It's you. Jesus tells you to hate your mother, hate your child, but you won't do that. You'll make up an excuse for the person telling you to do it, but you won't do that because you're inherently good. Christianity, we're under attack. It's been, it's one of the key tools that Christianity has used to keep advancing itself, is that we're under attack. We're always under attack. We got to go kill all the Muslims because they're meaning to attack us. Bullshit. I see through it. I'm doing these podcasts because I have seen through this. Yeah, me. Maybe it's a gift. I don't know. But I see it clearly. This tradition is a ruse. And it's causing a lot of harm. I'll get back.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.